Lesson 2, 5 Key Elements of Successful Learning Intervention. In Lesson 1, I encouraged parents and educators of struggling learners to dig deeper and to remain curious about what's really at the root of children's learning difficulties. We've already covered what not-so-successful learning intervention looks like for our very unique learners. Now, let's talk about what to focus on instead. In order to give struggling learners a real chance at lifelong learning success, it's not enough to strengthen one learning skill and then neglect the rest. We need to fit all of the learning pieces together, build them up together. We'll take a quick peek at 5 of those pieces. I do go into much more detail about each one in further training, so if you're a parent or educator who wants to learn more about that, at the end of this mini training, I'll tell you where you can learn more. One of the key areas we focus on when students struggle to learn is attention. Of course, when a child is hyperactive, we really don't need to guess whether attention is an issue. If it is, it's pretty obvious, and it's likely interfering with learning. Other times, attention challenges can be kinda sneaky. You might have a child who appears to be listening intently all of the time, especially if she's really good at making eye contact, when actually her mind is checking out a lot. It's not obvious to the rest of us that something is amiss unless, of course, we know what to look for. Now, here's a quick side note for any teachers here. If you have students in your class who are quiet and polite and don't really require a lot of your extra time, be sure that you keep a lookout for this easy-to-miss attention challenge, especially if those kids are not necessarily your straight-A students. They may have become very skilled at hiding their wandering attention from you, and they're secretly struggling, but nobody knows. Another root cause of learning difficulty is trouble with auditory processing. Auditory processing challenges also have a funny way of hiding in plain sight. Within this key area of learning, we have a number of auditory processing skills to strengthen. For instance, we take a close look at auditory memory. Essentially, that's just a fancy way of saying we can remember what we hear. We'll come back to this one in the next lesson when we talk about more signs of difficulty that parents and educators can keep an eye out for. When we strengthen students' auditory discrimination, another auditory processing skill, we improve their ability to tell the difference between sounds. For instance, d, b. Are they the same or are they different? Some unique learners, or learners who are wired a bit differently, don't always know. Now here's something interesting. Rhythm is an important element of auditory processing as well, and it can impact a child's ability to learn. If you have a highly uncoordinated child who happens to dance a little like a crazy person, you might want to include rhythm exercises as part of your learning intervention plan. Next up, we look deeper into visual processing, or how we process what we see with our eyes. When we help struggling students improve skills like visual memory, visual discrimination, and a handful of other underlying visual skills, this helps us increase their chances of becoming confident, independent learners. By the way, please don't let any of this information overwhelm you. I know it's a lot, but I just want to give you an idea of what we look for when we want to close those hidden learning gaps. Sometimes learners only have challenges in 1 or 2 of these areas. If that's the case, then once we make a small tweak here or there, they're quickly off and learning independently. Not always, but sometimes. We just have to learn what to look for in order to find and close those learning gaps. Now, we've already established that reading is an academic skill, but in order to read, we need the underlying skill we call phonemic awareness. We also need to be able to quickly and easily recognize letters. Multisensory reading techniques that include sight, sound, and touch can help struggling learners build much better cognitive connections, which then lead to profound improvements in reading. Finally, our 5th category is time, space, and logic. Students with learning difficulties often struggle with critical thinking, with keeping themselves and their schoolwork organized, remembering not just to complete assignments, but to turn them in after finishing, and other areas related to planning and goal setting. This final area, time, space, and logic, might seem like a little bit of a hodgepodge, but we'll touch on it a little more when we discuss executive function in Lesson 4. Now, let's say that we're helping a child strengthen reading and attention skills. If that child also has weak auditory processing and we neglect to help them with it, then we're really doing that struggling learner a huge disservice. We're not filling all of the learning gaps that are causing so much trouble. They tend to be interconnected. For instance, auditory processing can impact phonemic awareness. Attention issues can impact, everything. The good news is that we only need to spend approximately 10 minutes at a time on each of these key areas. They do need to be the right skills, the right level, and the right strategies that are tailor-fit to the child's unique needs, but those are easy enough to determine. Again, no PhD required. Incidentally, spending too much time and energy in any one area does not lead to better results. 10 minutes each during learning intervention time is really all you need. Besides, variety helps keep it interesting, not just for the kids, but for the instructors too. So now that we know what to look for when we dig deeper, let's move on to see what some of the signs of difficulty actually look like.